Hello, hello. Welcome to this very short tutorial. She says. We all know it's not going to be a short tutorial at all. Hence, already I'm rambling. But anyway, welcome to this tutorial where I'm going to talk to you about over stitches or decorative stitches. So I've been working on a new kit where you make your own Christmas stockings or advent calendars for Christmas trees. They fit a UK-sized Freddo bar or a Maoam. You can get a Malteser reindeer, which is my favourite chocolate, just FYI. But it does poke out, but still. But I'm going to show you how to do this bit here. So this bit, this number 8, has been created using overstitching or decorative stitching. And what that means is, instead of actually knitting with this cream colour and the red at the same time, which is known as intarsia knitting, you literally just stitch it. So at the back, I'm just showing you, I've just got a little bit of cream yarn hanging about because I've literally just used some yarn and a nice needle to stitch that decoration in. So it looks like knit stitches, but it's not. It's a very clever little thing. And then on the back as well, I've got my number 10. So it's perfect for if you want to add any little details to something without having to do it intarsia knitting, because I love intarsia. I do it quite a lot, but it is a pain. And if you're literally just wanting to add something small like this, sometimes it really isn't worth the faff. So to be able to just stitch over it is a bit of a lifesaver. So I'm going to show you how. I'm going to show you all my little jumpers because I have been meaning to stitch my son's name on some little jumpers for his room. So obviously an A, an R, a T, a H, blah, 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 blah. So I thought I'd show you how to do it, how to actually stitch over. Now, I do not have a chart with me. I am doing this off the top of my head as I go because I am somewhat of a loon. And I'm in the process of actually creating some letter charts to go with my jumpers so that you could do this at home as well. Which colour shows up better? The cream or the beige or the aqua? I'm going to go for the beige. Sorry, aqua. So let's just remind ourselves of a couple things. These beautiful V stitches, and if I just use my lovely little knitting needle to raise one up, these beautiful little V things here are our knit stitches. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be sewing over these V's to replicate them, but in a different colour. Basically, we're copying them. And we've got lovely columns of stitch, which is these V's going all the way down in a nice vertical row. Column, she says. And then we've got our rows of stitching. So when we're doing this process, it's a little bit like battleships. You've got to go down one, across one, down one, across one, or Pac-Man, however you feel. Right, apologies if I've just cut in a really awkward position, but I was doing really well, and then I realised I was holding everything off camera, so I had to reposition myself. So let's start this again. I'm going to be stitching my 2 decorative stitches over the 2 middle ones, and I'm going to go for these 2 here, which I've just indicated with my needle. These 2 here, I've just gone under both of them. So our stitches are separated. If I go in the middle of a stitch, by these bars, which I'm just trying to force over. Here we go. Trying to force over that yellow needle so you can see them. There you go. See those bars? Each stitch is separated by one of those bars. So when I'm using my decorative stitching, as I'm using it, I'm going to be placing my needle either under or over a bar. So when I talk about a bar, this is what I'm referring to. Now, if I just stretch it out, get that tension right. So for example, if I just put my needle in, we're going to go for this stitch here. So I'm going to bring my needle through. I'm going to identify the stitch that I want to go over, and I'm going to go over this one here. Right. It's also going to shock you. I'm not going to anchor the end of my yarn because this is going to be a decorative piece. No one's touching it. So it's just going to sit on the wall. But anyway. Right. So I'm going to be stitching over this knit stitch here, which my needle has currently gone under, right? So this stitch has 2 bars. it's got a bottom bar, which I've just lifted up with my needle. And that is where the 2 bars of stitch kind of join together. Because if you notice, your stitches, the bars of stitch go in diagonal lines. And at the bottom, those 2 lines come together. And at the top, they move apart. So the bottom bar is where those 2 lines of stitch come together, or yarn, sorry, come together. And then the top bar is where they come apart. I will keep repeating this. So if you're like, what? Don't panic. So I've brought my needle underneath the stitch by going underneath the bottom bar. And now I want to replicate this knit stitch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to feed it underneath the stitch at the top. Say what? You'll see why now in a minute. So I'm going to bring that yarn through. And I'm not going to pull it too tightly. Haha. So hopefully you can see now, I have now replicated that line of stitch. Instead of being this lovely oatmeal colour, it's now gone white. Boom. I'm now going to bring my needle back into the first point of position, which was underneath that stitch. And I'm going to go directly next door, which I'll talk about in a moment. I'm going to make sure I don't cross over though. And then I'm going to gently pull. And then there we go, look. Excellent. I have now overstitched or top stitched over one of my knit stitches. So this is what we're doing. We are replicating those stitches. We're copying them. We're not actually replacing them, because if we're replacing them, we were going to take them away. We're going on top of them. So again, I want to do the same on this stitch, which my needle is currently going under, right? So what we're going to do, my needle is already underneath the bottom bar of stitch where those 2 little bars meet together. I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to feed it underneath the stitch that is directly above. So just to clarify, this is the stitch that I want to replicate here. I want to go over. This is the above stitch. So I'm going underneath that one. And then I'm going to feed the yarn through without pulling too tightly. If you pull too tightly, sometimes they can disappear a little bit. There we go. And now I'm going to bring my needle back to the point of where I started, which is going to be underneath that bottom bar. And I'm just going to bring it out completely so we can just see what we've done. There we go. So I now have 2 top stitches over my knit stitches. So it looks like I've actually knit them in the white, but I haven't. I've overstitched them. How sneaky is that? Right, I'm going to keep going. What you will notice, and some of you may have already noticed, is as you work through them, your lines in between each stitch, they might start to widen slightly, and that's because we're adding more yarn to it. But if you just squidge, 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 pull, 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 squidge, 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 play around with the fibres, you know, move them around, wiggle them, it will help to reduce some of the tension and it'll ease it back. Depending on the yarn you're using, it won't go completely back to the way it was. With intarsia knitting, yes, it will, but with overstitching, it doesn't. So just bear that one in mind. But hopefully, it's not enough to cause any grievance or annoyance. Right, going back to this now. What I want to do now for my A is I want to now top stitch the stitch that's going diagonally down to the left. So this is a stitch, let's use this actually, it's better. So this is a stitch I've just top stitched. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to come down a stitch, I'm going to go across a stitch. So I'm going to do this one here. So remember, we have a top bar and we have a bottom bar for this stitch. So I'm going to bring my needle through the bottom bar of the stitch. So I'm going to grab my needle, I'm going to stab my thumb, owie, I'm going to bring it underneath that stitch by going underneath the bar. There we go. And just to remind ourselves real quick, just in case we've forgotten, checking that I'm still on camera because I'm not doing this again. There, see, that's the bottom bar. So that's the bar that I've gone under with my white yarn. I want to go over this knit stitch, so I'm going to feed my needle through the stitch that is directly at the top. There we go. And then I'm going to bring it back to the point where I started. I'm going to go directly under because I'm going to bring a little column coming down. Oops, get it caught on the little sleeve. There we go. Hey, hey. So when you are doing your overstitching or your top stitching, whatever you want to call it, decorative stitching, you want to start from the top of whatever it is you're doing, going down, because you get a much nicer finish. So for example, I'm now going to go 4 stitches down in total. So I've done 1, I'm just about to do 2. What I'm going to do now though, for this new knit stitch, I'm going to bring my needle underneath or behind the original stitch, because by going behind the original stitch it helps to anchor that decorative stitch, but also it helps to reduce the overall bulkiness of these stitches. So you're going to end up with a really nice high quality finish. You might have to fiddle a little bit with the tension, but overall it will be worth it. So make sure you go behind the original stitch. And there we go. I've now got my 2 stitches going downwards. So I'm going to bring my needle behind that stitch I've just done. It's going to be stitch number 3. I'm going to bring it to the point, my original point, but at the same time, because I'm going down another stitch, I'm going down through the original point and I'm going down to the next stitch. So I'm doing 2 things at once just to make my life easier. There we go. And then I'm going to go behind this stitch that I've just done. If it will let me. And there we go. I was just going to do 4. Now I'm wondering if I do 5. No, I'm going to stick to 4. And then I'm going to bring the needle to my original point, pull it all the way through. Oh, yay, look at that. Tee-hee. Oh, look at that. That's not bad. Happy days. Right. I'm now going to start from this point here, because I'm doing an A, you see. Oh yeah, look, you can see it's getting a little bit on the bulky side, but that's okay. We can play around with tension later on. I want to do a little A. So I now want to stitch on this bit here. So instead of cutting my yarn and starting all over again, I'm just going to feed my needle and I'm going to go underneath that stitch. And first I'm going to get it caught. Fiddly little job. Here we go. Oh, come here, you. Ha 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 ha. So I'm just going to be careful as I'm pulling it, because we don't want the tension to get too tight on that bottom stitch. Brilliant. So I've currently brought my needle underneath the bottom bar for that knit stitch, and I'm now going to bring it through the back of the top stitch. And then again, I'm going to go back through the point of where I started, but because I'm going to go directly down, I'm going to go back through the point of where I started, and I'm also going to go underneath the bottom bar. There we go. Excellent. And then we're going to go behind this one. Notice I'm pulling it as well, just helping out with the tension a little bit. Through the point of where we started and beneath the lower bar. Excellent. So this is also a really beautiful technique. So if you've bought a store-bought jumper, like a machine knit jumper, and you want to add your own little bit of flair to it, this is such a great way to do that. Such a great way, because then it looks like it's actually part of the knit, and people are going to be like, oh my god, that job is amazing, where'd you get it from? And you can say, oops, and you can say, oh yeah, I know this, oh yeah, I embellished it myself, because this is technically what this is called. This is called embellishment. Oh, I've gone wrong, look. Oh dearie me. I went through the stitch above the above. I basically went through the wrong one, so I'm just going to take this out very nice and gently. There we go. Make sure we're all happy. We're happy. Rethread the needle. It's because I was talking too much. Right. Through the top stitch, Heather. There we go. There we go. Right, now back to the point. Now before I go back to through that point, I'm now going to knit across these 2 stitches here, because again, I'm creating an A. So I'm going to bring my needle back through my original point, and I'm going to go diagonally across underneath this stitch, because this is the stitch I want to over stitch next. There we go. And then through the top. So this is truly how I work. I don't normally work with it always facing me like this. I do normally work to the side, because I just find it comfier, and you'll find your own way of working as you develop. Whoopsies. All right, let's see how this looks. Oh gosh. Oh way, hey, look at that. That's not bad. Look at that. Yay. So now I have my little A. Got my little A for Arthur. I am realising though that for future designs I might have to go a little bit bigger, just because the R. Actually no, I can do an R. I can see it. But yeah, there you go. How nice is that? So again, you can anchor it, or you can do what I'm about to do, which is very naughty, and just not anchor it. Now again, I have not anchored this because this is a decorative item. I'm making it for my son's room. I can 100% confirm no one's touching it. So I'm not worried about stitches coming loose. What I'm doing now is I'm just using the knitting needle, and I'm just raising, just playing with the tension a bit, just to help raise some of these stitches so it looks more neat. But there you go. So that is how you can do your own overstitching to create your own little decorative elements or embellishments to your knits, whether it's your own handmade knit or a store-bought knit. But there you go. Not too bad. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you found it useful. And, well, instead of happy knitting, let's go for happy stitching.